ओम सर्वधर्मस्थापकस्तं सर्वधर्मस्वरूपकः आचार्याणां महाचार्यो Ramakrishna te Namaha. In the second chapter of Sri Ramakrishna, the Great Master, as the spiritual teacher, second part, the name of that chapter being The Mood of the Spiritual Teacher, and many sadhu sampradaya and various communities of holy men. And in that yesterday, we were reading about the Vedantins. And in that Thakur's Guru Bhav, we did not comment at the end, summing up. The Thakur's Guru Bhav, unique Guru Bhav, was expressed. Thakur is suffering badly from dysentery. And the description is, Thakur is telling that Hatir Jal Sukotana. Understand this? Now, after the motion goes out, you have to wash. And that water would not get dry by the time you'll again get washed. And in that, sadhus are assembled in his room. And there are experienced sadhus, not pet sadhus. Now, about this experience, let me tell you something. Now, I've been for almost 9 years in Rishikesh. Now, the akhadas there and ashramas there. If some sadhu is a scholar, he is honored very much. Some sadhu is vairagyavan, he is honored very much. And if he is scholar and vairagyavan, he is called Vedanta Murti. Nobody talks of anubhav, nobody talks of experience. And those sadhus who have experience, they go away, they in some solitude or like that. So that is the main thing. Sadhus coming to Thakur were experienced. And that is why they are discussing Astivati Priya, not Satchidananda. That one thing shows their characteristics. Now, during that experience, there are certain philosophical matters. So they discuss with each other. And sometimes such a naughty problem comes that there are two angles of looking at that. Then conflict comes. And such experiences, Thakur in such a natural way, though he was suffering physically, will not meet people, will not see people in such condition. And Thakur could listen and tell them the answers, and they were all satisfied. So that is where Thakur's unique bhav is expressed in that company with the Vedantic sadhus. Then two sadhus Thakur described. especially. That is for us to know the ideals. And in that Thakur's Guru, how is expressed? To understand them. People will take them to be mad persons. Even the poor people did not allow him to sit with them. And he sat with the dogs. And when he sang, the mother was so happy, and the whole temple was reverberating. So Thakur could understand. To connect with scriptural passage with the life of a sadhu, that is what is the important thing in our life. And the other sadhu, Ananda Praptoich, just looks and says, क्या क्या माया है, कैसा संसार बनाया है, क्या माया. So Thakur could immediately recognize them. That is Thakur's Guru. And for us it is a teaching. If you are following Vedanta, Thakur said, I am afraid I may become like that. So, if you are following Vedanta, externally anything may happen. Now we come to other sampradayas. We will take up now para 10. Some time passed that way. Visits of Paramahamsas became few and far between. That means they continue to come, but not like a crowd together and all that. That is another point. Till that railways came, nobody discontinued. They were going that very way. Ramavat fathers. Fathers means Babaji. Vaishnava Sampradaya sadhus are called Babajis. Ramavat fathers, men of fervent renunciation. You see, when spirituality declines, the avatar comes. And when the avatar comes, everywhere spiritual life comes in the Sampradayas. That's why these good Vedantis and good sadhus were coming. Men of fervent renunciation, devout and dispassionate fathers began to pour in large numbers. When Thakur wants to do some sadhana, they come like that. What devotion and what faith they had. Their main thing is to counter on faith. It is an experiential faith, I would say. Such a tremendous faith. And how steadfast was their service to the Lord. Nishtha. It was from one of them that Ram Lala came to me. That is a long story. Big Guru Bhav Thakurs. Now in the footnote, in English translation, they change the footnote a little, unnecessarily. Ramlala, that is the boy Sri Ramachandra. Boy means small boy, Lala. The people in the northwestern part of India, this is true about UP and Punjab also. Affectionately call boys and girls Lalas and Lalis respectively. You have heard any name is Lala? Which one? Lala Lajpat Rai. In cricket field, Lala Amarnath. And they very affectionately they call Lalla. Hindi में. That is why the image made of the 8 metals, Ashtadhatu Murti, a symbol of the child Ramachandra, was called Ram Lala by that father. In the Bengali language also, the words Dulal and Dulali are used in the same sense. In the bracket, this is all right. The prefix du means haughty, not necessary. Dulal is just like Lal. Radha is called Dulali. Okay. So, it was from one of them that Ram Lala came to me. That is a long story. That father served the image for a long time. He took it with him wherever he went. He cooked whatever he got by Viksha and offered the cooked food to eat. That was not all. He actually saw that Ramlala ate or wished to eat something or wanted to go for a walk or insisted on the satisfaction of a fancy and so on. What you understand from here? He was experiencing. Thakur also experienced, and Thakur saw that he experienced. Thakur's thing works here in double way. Thakur also experienced, and Thakur experienced that that man is experiencing. That is Guru Bhava. And like a child, Ram wants everything. In the company of the image, he was beside himself with bliss and always remained inebriated on a different level of consciousness. I also saw Ramlala doing all that. I sat all the 24 hours of the day with the father and kept gazing on Ramlala. चौबीस घंटा बचे तक. As days passed on, Ramlala's love for me went on increasing. As long as I remained with the father, Ramlala felt happy. He played and sported. But as soon as I came away from that place to my room, he also followed me immediately there. He did not remain with the sadhu, although I forbade him to come. I at first thought it was perhaps a fancy of my brain. How could it otherwise be possible that the boy loved me more than him? The boy worshipped by the sadhu for a long time, whom he loved so dearly and served so tenderly with devotion. What is the explanation for that? Thakur is God. There is only explanation. But of what avail were these thoughts? I actually saw, just as I see you before me, that Ramlala accompanied me, dancing, now proceeding, now following me, just like small children. To visualize this in our mind will be meditation. Sometimes he importuned to be carried in my lap. You have seen small children. If you take them in lap, they want to go out. And if you leave them walking, they want to come in your lap. Is that? Again, when I took him on my lap, he would by no means remain there. He would go down to run hither and thither, collect flowers in thorny jungles, or go to the Ganga to swim and splash water there. Child Rama. I said over and over again, my child, don't do that. You will get blisters on your soles if you run in the sun. Do not remain in water so long. You will catch cold and get fever. But he did not give ear to my words. Because he is God, so he is self-built. Not just like a naughty boy, but it is a God. God is always self-built. But he did not give ear to my words, however much I might forbid him. Unconcerned, he went on. See, he loved Thakur. These are the symptoms of a God only. All the actions of Ramlala cannot be a human action or that image action. Image cannot move at all. And that is the beauty of idol worship or image worship. That becomes only a focus. And in that, Ram is being experienced, both by that sadhu and by Thakur. One point here. Science says that the experience should be objective. Subjective means you are experiencing, nobody else is experiencing. So here we find two points of reference. That is objective. Even the whole world does not experience. But Baba experiences and Thakur experiences. So 2 points are there. That is how objective is defined. And yet others are not experiencing. That means the level of consciousness is different. Whoever goes on that level, he will experience. So the subjective and objective is useless by science. Unconcerned, he went on with his pranks as if I was speaking to someone else. He would sometimes grin and look at me with his two eyes, beautiful like the petals of a lotus, or carry on his pranks with a vengeance. Either naughtiest child or God, self-built. He would pout both his lips and grimace and make mouths at me. Pouting, you understand? I would then actually be angry and scold him. You rascal, wait, I will give you a sound beating today and pound your bones to powder. Exactly relation of a father and a child. Saying so, I would pull him away from the sun or from the water and then cajole him by giving him this thing or that and then ask him to play within the room. Again, finding it impossible to restrain his naughtiness, I would sometimes give him a slap or two. Thus beaten, he would pout his beautiful lips and sob and look at me with tears in his eyes. When I would feel pain, I then took him affectionately on my lap and cajoled him. I actually saw and acted thus. One day I was going to bed, where he took an obstinate fancy to go with me. What could I do? I took him with me. Then he would not come out of the water. He turned a deaf ear to all my pleadings. At last I became angry, immersed him in the water and said, be now in the water as long as you like. And I actually saw that he panted and writhed under the water. Seeing him suffer thus and thinking to myself what I have done, I took him out of water onto my lap. It cannot be described how much I felt pain for him on another occasion and how much I wept. That day Ramlala was obstinately demanding something to eat, and I gave him some parched paddy, not properly husked. What is this parched paddy? Huh? Mudi, no. Mudi is parched rice. You understand the difference? Parched paddy. हिंदी में क्या बोलते हैं? खीले. Marathi laya. Laya. Understand? Mudi is, if rice is parched, it becomes mudi. But with the paddy, if it is parched, sometimes the paddy remains also 1 or 2. That is what is coming now. That is why parched paddy is said. In English, there is no other word. Not properly hushed in order to pacify. I then found that his soft and delicate tongue got lacerated by the husk of the paddy as he was eating. Dear me, what a great pain I felt then. I took him on my lap, wept loudly, and taking hold of his chin, sobbed out the words. I was so rash and foolish that I did not at all hesitate to put such contemptible food into the mouth, which Mother Kausalya used to feed solicitously with such soft delicacies as butter, thickened milk. Thickened milk is cream. And cream, he says. Thickened milk and cream. Okay. Lest they should hurt him. As he was speaking those words, many years afterwards, to the devotees, the master's past grief burst forth anew, and he became restless in our presence and wept so bitterly that we could not restrain our tears, though we did not understand a bit of his loving relation with Ramdas. So it's an actual experience. What we thought when we heard of Ramlala from the master. No contrast. Always Saradananda will do this contrast. Chained in Maya, we jivas were dumbfounded to hear those words about Ramlala and looked at the image with awe, hopefully wondering if we too could see him living and moving. But we saw nothing but cold metal. And why should we? We had not got that loving attraction for Ramlala. The affection for Ramchandra had not been so intensified in our minds as to produce in us the eye of love. Eye of love in Kathamrita, in the Gospel, there is a section, most beautiful section. Master Masha asking Thakur whether God can be seen by this, our Charma Chakshu, by the physical eyes. And Thakur said no. But while doing sadhana, you get a body made out of love. And in that body made out of love, there are eyes made out of love, ears made out of love, everything made out of love. And by those eyes made out of love, you see God. A thrilling description is there. So, this is eye of love. The affection for Ramchandra had not been so intensified in our minds as to produce in us the eye of love like that of the Master, enabling us to see living Ramlala in and outside also. We see a small doll only and think, could what the Master said have happened, or can it ever happen? It is so with us regarding everything in the world. Here, yes means the humanity. And we are resting satisfied with our load of unbelief. Do you not see the Rishi, the knower of Brahman says, Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma, Neha Nanasti Kinchana. In this world there is no difference. It is only Brahman. That is, there is nothing in the world except the reality of Brahman, existence, knowledge, bliss. There is no real existence for any one of the persons or things that one sees. We thought it might be so, but looking at the world, we do not find the slightest trace of the reality of Brahman. The one without a second. What we see are wood and earth, house and door, man and cow and other things of various colors, shapes and sizes. Or at most, we see if we see some natural beauty, a poetic idea arises. That is not spiritual experience. So he is mentioning here. Or at most we see the green, dark blue, snow-capped mountain. Dark blue? Yes. The Himalayan trees or the your Utakaman trees, eucalyptus trees, they're all dark blue. Or at most we see the green, dark blue, snow-capped mountain, snow-capped, below dark green. Arrogantly attempting to touch the deep blue infinite sky, bedecked with stars, and the streams singing in a sweet, low, murmuring note. Is all the poetic fancy flowing down to teach it lowliness and scolding it with the words, so much arrogance is not good. Streams flowing down, and those mountains trying to touch the sky, and streams are telling them, don't be so arrogant. This also is wonderful poetry. Or we see the infinite tempestuous seas riding the high breakers and rushing forth to swallow everything, but unable to go beyond the shores in spite of thousand efforts. Breakers, you understand, no? And the banks, certain things are put so that they should not come in. There we come to the end of our tether and think, the Rishi said so under the influence of strong intoxicants. Suppose now the Rishi says, no children, practice self-control and purity and make your mind one-pointed and tranquil, then you will understand and realize what we have said. You will actually see that the world is an intensified manifestation of your own thoughts. And that you see, world is an intensive manifestation of your own thoughts. People see the world differently. You see, everybody sees like that. You go and ask, and then you will understand and realize what we have said. You will actually see that the world is an intensified manifestation of your own thoughts and that you see diversity outside because it is there in your mind. People argue in a reverse way, why we experience diversity. So it must be diversity outside. And he says that diversity outside because your mind has diversity. So it sees that thing outside. Rishi is telling, to this we reply, we means common man. To this we reply, revered sir, where do we find the time for such practices? We who are restless under the tyranny of the senses, like the tyranny of an emperor, and urgency of earning our livelihood. That is another thing. Or perhaps we say, you understand this point? People will generally complain that we have to struggle for our livelihood, so we have no time for religion. But that is not true. Tyranny of the senses is there. Or perhaps we say, your list of duties to be carried out for qualifying to have a direct vision of your reality called Brahman cannot be followed in practice in a few days or months or even years. So, long practice is necessary. It is doubtful whether man can do it in a whole lifetime. Suppose we apply our minds to it in compliance with what you say, but fail to attain that reality of Brahman. So this samshaya. And see at long last that the attainment of infinite bliss is but a sophism. Sophism means philosophy only. We lose both here and hereafter. We are deprived of the enjoyment of worldly pleasures, transitory though they may be, as well as your infinite bliss. What will happen to us then? No, sir. If you have got the taste of that infinite bliss, well and good. Go on enjoying it happily for the good of generations, of your disciples. Only allow us to enjoy the little pleasure that can immediately be had from sight strength. This is the whole world. How he has compared beautifully, etc. Pray. Don't raise so much reasoning and so many arguments and invent casuistry to spoil that little enjoyment of ours. नाना तर्कयुक्ति फंदी फारजा तुलिया. So arguments of various types, spiritual to explain spiritual truths. But the ordinary man thinks it is all children. They are just deceiving us. Now, other side. Wonderful comparison. The scientist comes and says to us, I can show you with the help of instruments that one all-pervading substance, a conscious power, exists uniformly in all things and beings. Bricks and trees and plants, men and cattle, and is manifested variously. We also find that the vibration of life is indeed observable in all beings. So some experience we also get. We say, bravo, fine intellectual sweep. But what is the use of having that knowledge only? The Rishi, the authors of our scriptures told us all that long ago. You know that. A little discussion on this point. In the modern world, who told that plants have life? Huh? Jagdish Bose. Because he was an Indian scientist. And the science community told him, we are mad. But in the Vedas, it is clearly mentioned. So, the Vedic things is given in English translation. Antasangya bhavet bhavante sukha dukkha samanvita. It was Jagdish was showed. They have pleasure and pain, but their expression is not outside, inside. Antasangya. That is what the Vedic rishis could see. Even ancient things like trees and stones have consciousness. The experiencing of pain and pleasure is also there in them. It is from Manusmriti. You have, let us admit, demonstrated it now. So physically observable. But can you say that it will add to our enjoyments? It is then only that we can extol your wisdom. Here, a wonderful psychological fact is telling. Scientists will say we are attracted to science because it tells us truth. We are attracted to science because it provides enjoyment. Secondly, because physically verifiable, and mainly because it adds to enjoyment. You have seen now, in India, it is difficult to see a person without this mobile phone. Some years back, when I was in Rishikesh, one German young boy was there, young man. And there are the street urchins, they had mobile phone. So he's telling me your country is much more industrialized than our country. Everybody is having a cell phone. The scientist says, will it not? It is certain to do so. Just see how convenient it is for you to get the news from various parts of the globe through the discovery of the power of electricity. How convenient it is for you to earn money, the basis of all your enjoyments, by trade and commerce carried on by means of ships, railways and mills, factories and other machines, all driven by the power of steam. That steam has gone now. And how convenient it is for you to destroy your enemies who stand in the way of your enjoyment or pleasures by the invention of guns and cannon, though the understanding of the hidden through the understanding of the hidden laws of explosive. This all-pervading power with which you have thus become acquainted today, electricity, also cannot be of some use in future. That prana energy also. We reply, well, you are right, but invent something as soon as possible so that our only desideratum, namely our enjoyment, might be increased by the application of this newly discovered power. It is only then that your discovery will be hailed and your intelligence appreciated. Objective part. One boy known to me was in America for a long time. He came back to India. He said they don't want any fundamental research. Always want something outside something. Then alone we shall understand that you don't speak under the influence of intoxicants like those authors of the Vedas and the Purana. The scientist listens, feels the need of trend of our thoughts and says, so be it. All the difficulties that arose in the spiritual world were due only to the fact that the rishis, the preachers of the knowledge portion of the Vedas, could not just say, so be it. They say we are seeking the truth. They therefore had to live in jungles far away from the bustle of the world and remain satisfied in the company of a few people who were adverse to the enjoyment of worldly pleasure. That is the first consideration. Vairagya. But it does not seem probable that in the spiritual world in India, no attempt at saying so be it has ever been made. Remember, he has told Karta Bajaj and all that thing. Remember the latter part of the Buddhist age when the Tantric Kapalikas were spreading the process of rites for killing others, driving others distracted, subduing others, and so on. Jaran, Maran, Vashikaran. There was a great fuss about alleviating and curing bodily and mental diseases by means of various propitiatory ceremonies, Shanti, sustain, and about exorcising evil spirits like ghosts and ghouls. At that time, you could not be recognized, even as a religious man, till you could show some superhuman miraculous power. Even today, that is what people think. Produced by your austerities and feign the power of controlling the destinies of your disciples in such a way that they might have the enjoyment of worldly pleasures without any obstacle. This is the Tantricism hit. Kapalika, degraded Buddhism. For once at that time, the religious world girded up its loins to preach to the worldly people, that the truths hidden in religion were helpful in fulfilling the desires of enjoyment. But how could light and darkness coexist? Consequently, the Kapalikas forgot yoga in a short time, came down to the plane of bhoga, and secretly preached in the name of religion that liberates one from bondage, desires for extensive enjoyments which bind one tighter to the world of matter. In the name of religion, they preach a religion that liberates one from bondage, actual religion. But they preach desires for extensive enjoyment which blind one tighter to the world of matter. The truly religious people of the country then understood once more that the two yoga and bhoga were contradictory to each other and could by no means coexist in one and the same receptacle. Many religious people also to some extent believe this. We are devoted to God, so He will give us better life. When they understood it, they were again in favor of the path of knowledge preached by the seers and began to realize that knowledge in practical life. So that is achievable. Where is the opportunity for us to conquer with the worldly people in their opinions and say, so be it? No. Now, about whom he is talking? Disciples of Thakur. Rishis, scientists, some poets, man in general, mind trying to mix religion and bhoga, and now Thakur's disciples. Where is the opportunity for us to conquer with the worldly people in their opinions and say, so be it? For we have begun to tell the story of the Master. One who is not of this world, in whose mind the idea of renunciation was so deep rooted that his hand would become contracted and insensible at the touch of a metal, even during deep sleep. That his respiration stopped and he felt a terrible pain. So just opposite to all this, totally opposite. He was one on whom flashed the knowledge of images of the Divine Mother herself the moment his eyes fell on any female figure. Opposite, everything totally opposite. The knowledge which no amount of efforts and temptations on the part of many persons could remove. Mathur and others tried. He was one who was so grievously pained and so terribly angry at the suggestion of Mathur's making a gift of a property worth several thousand rupees that he ran hither and thither with a stick in his hand to beat Mathur, who was supremely devoted to him. Exactly opposite of the worldly people. And we are seeing him and we are describing him. He was one who got excited while he was afterward describing the pain he felt at a similar proposal of Lakshmi Narayan Marwadi. Mathur's proposal, he went to beat Mathur. And a similar proposal was done by Lakshmi Narayan Marwadi, great devotee of Thakur, and said, I felt as if my head was being sawn through. And he was one in whose mind, no, because Mathur was devoted to him. Lakshmi Narayan also was devoted, but he was a stranger. And he was one in whose mind no objects of worldly enjoyments, such as sights, states, etc., could ever bring the dark blot of attachment and produce the slightest break in his experience of the supersensuous bliss of ecstasy. So, Shabda Sparsha Rupa Rasagandha is not affected. He is having spiritual bliss. We knew long ago, O man, ever eager to enjoy the pleasures of the world, that we would have to put up with much abuse and reproach when we chose to tell you the story of the man. Worldly people will not like this. Story of this extraordinary master. That is not all. We knew also that you would not hesitate to slander this godly character. If any, when they will slander, if any simple-hearted among your sons and grandsons, friends and relatives would be actually attracted by our words toward that wonderful character and try to renounce the world and worldly enjoyment. This is a funny thing. You have seen in householders? They come to mission. They will not allow their sons to come to the mission. You have seen this? I have seen this in plenty. Religion belongs to old age. One Gujarati couple, they had two sons. The elder one was very intelligent. The younger one was much less intelligent, you might say. And they used to say, if the younger one becomes a sadhu, we are not concerned. The elder should not become. Because he will earn money for them. But when once we have set our hand to this undertaking, we are not able to desist from it, nor are we able to hide the truth even partially. Because this is Thakur's Leela, writing of Leelaprasanga is also built by Thakur. The very purpose for his incarnation has to be served for. Otherwise, it will remain only during Thakur's period. We have to narrate what we know. There is otherwise no peace. Someone, as it were, forces her to speak out clearly. God. Let us therefore narrate as far as we know the story of this extraordinary God-man. Accept as much of the story as you can digest and omit the head and tail. Or if you like, you may throw the book away, thinking that a few cock and bull stories have been narrated in it by a hemspoker, and every day run to sip honey from the new flowers of worldly objects. Afterwards, when you fall into the terrible whirlpool of the world and ever arrive at a state owing to bad luck, or would you like to call it good luck, wherein you find that the honey of worldly objects and the flowers of lust, etc., have become stale and insipid. Read the life story of this extraordinary person. You will then find solace yourself and appreciate the worth of our master. So the result will be like that only. The worldly pleasures cannot give you enjoyment. The result will be you will be in a very bad state. And then think about God. And then appreciate Thakur. in the course of, so this is the reflection, comparison. Now we go back to Ramlala's story. Because Thakur said that from such a person, the Ramlala came to me, that he has yet to narrate. In the course of his description of that wonderful behavior of Ramlala, the master said, on some days the Holy Father would cook food and offer it to Ramlala, but could not find him. Wounded at heart, he would then run up here to Master's room and find him playing in the room. With his feeling of love wounded, he would then scold him. I took so much trouble to cook food for you, and I'm searching for you hither and thither, and free from care and forgetful of everything, you are here. That has ever been your way. Beautiful, they live in a very different world. You do as you fancy. You have no kindness or affection. You left behind your father and went to the forest. Your poor father died of weeping. But still you did not return to show yourself to him. With these and other similar words, he used to drag Ramlala to his place and feed him. Time passed in that way. The sadhu was here for a long time. For Ramlala did not like to leave this place and go away. He also could not leave behind Ramlala, whom he had loved so long. Dissolved in tears, the father then came one day and said, Ramlala has shown himself to me in the way I wanted to have his vision and has thus quenched the thirst of my life. You understand his stance? They require an alambha. And so this murti. And with the help of the murti, they experience so many things. But then when the experience grows, they see him without any murti. They see him outside, inside all the time. And that one may say might have happened due to Thakur's company. Ramlala has shown himself to me in the way I wanted to have his vision. So this murti is the alambha. And has thus quenched the thirst of my life. Moreover, he said, you would not go from here. He does not like to leave you behind here and go away. My mind is now free from sorrow and pain. He lives happily with you and plays and sports. I feel beside myself with bliss to see it. Tat sukha sukhitam. I am now in such a state that I feel happy at his happiness. Therefore, I can now leave him with you and go elsewhere. Thinking he is happy with you, I will be happy. Saying so and giving Ramlala to me, he bade goodbye. Ramlala has been here since then. We understand that the holy man had the taste of love, free from the slightest tinge of selfishness by virtue of the divine company of the Master, and was convinced that on account of that affection, there was no fear of separation from the object of his love. He understood that his chosen ideal, the embodiment of pure love, that is what is Ramalala, was always with him, and that he could see him whenever he liked. Whenever he liked, he could see him outside, otherwise always with him. It is doubtless that on that assurance alone, the father could live behind Ramlala, who was as dear to him as his life. So Ramlala story over, but the Ramayapati sadhus, many things are still there. We read something. The master said, on another occasion, there came a sadhu who had absolute faith in the name of God. He also belonged to the Ramayana nation. He had nothing with him except a water pot and a book. The book was very dear to him. He used to worship it daily with flowers, book, and open and read it now and then. When I became acquainted with him, one day I persuaded him to lend me the book. When I opened it, I found that the only thing written in it with red ink in big letters was Om Rama. He said, what is the use of reading a large number of books? For it is from the one divine Lord that the Vedas and Puranas have come up. Om Rama. So Rama is not only Dasharatha's son and all that. He is the Nirgun Sagun Brahma embodied. He and his name are non-separate. When you call a person by name, he appears. So name and Nami is not separate. Therefore, what is contained in the four Vedas, the 18 Puranas and all the other scriptures is there in any one of his names. So he is not a fanatic man. Huh? That is why his name is my only companion. Such was the sadhu's faith in the name of God. Okay, so some more Ramayat Panthis we can read tomorrow. We'll read some portion tomorrow. Om Sarvadharma Stapakastvam Sarvadharma Swarupakah Acharyanam Acharyo Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.